Okay, we're going to do the last bit on the change chapter. So we've talked about organizational structure and we've talked about organizational change and what change is. And so now we are heading into a few slides discussing how we plan, execute, and refreeze the change essentially. And so we are working with Kurt Lewin. He was a social psychologist and came up with a lot of great ideas and theories and concepts around change and other leadership approaches. And he proposed this three-stage process of change. It looks linear with a start point and an end point, but in reality, and especially today, it's more of a continuous loop of change or a continuous process of change. But it's still useful to think about that we have to do certain things, and sometimes they're linear and sometimes they're not, for us to have a successful change outcome. So as you see on this slide, there's the three stages. It's the unfreezing, the changing, and then the refreezing. So you have the ice cubes there. They are frozen. That's our current mindsets, our current behaviors, routines, cognitions, communications. That's basically what we're doing currently. And we look at it as frozen because it's pretty static, the things we do things. We have habits, we have processes, and they do not change much from day to day. So to get our employees ready for the change, we have to unfreeze. We have to melt that down. So we have to prepare our employees for the change. So that's the unfreezing. And we'll talk about more details on another slide. Middle, right? You're jumping from one fishbowl to the other. We're doing the change. We're moving from A to B, that gap analysis, current state to future state. This means we're now actually executing the change. We're implementing the process, we're changing the technology, we're moving buildings. Whatever the change is, it can be small, it can be large, it's happening. Third stage is then refreezing. Now we need to go back to our ice cubes. So once people are engaging in the new behaviors, new communications, whatever it is, using the new technology, however the change was meant to be, we need to refreeze that to make sure that that becomes the new status quo. So we want to make the change permanent. We want to make the new habits, rule, procedures, whatever it is, the new norm. That's Kurt Lewin, three-stage process of change. This one is not in your textbooks. This is also Kurt Lewin, and it's called a force field analysis. And it basically looks at the likelihood or the challenges we might encounter during the change and how we can actually address that. So it's a force field analysis. So you have the traditional gap analysis where you have your status quo and you're going to the desired state, the future. And so what is added on to this slide is something called restraining forces as well as driving forces. Restraining forces, that's anything that will make you fail at the change. So anything that's resisting, prohibiting, or postponing the change. So what you will do is you will list one, two, you will brainstorm, so on and so forth, all of the changes, or I'm sorry, all of the factors that will cause you not to be able to change. Those are your restraining forces. On the other side of the spectrum, you're going to do the same thing. What are the things that will make the change successful? You will list them 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. So everything that will help you be successful with the change or will help the change move forward. If the restraining forces are greater than the driving forces, the idea is that you will not be able to do the change because you have not the momentum or the arguments or the positive forces on your side. So you either need to decrease, you have to decrease the restraining forces, and or you have to increase the driving forces. So if you're able to do that, increase and or decrease the restraining orders, not restraining orders, restraining forces. I need to stop watching movies. Restraining forces, then we will reach our desired state much quicker. All right, cool. So The next three slides deals with the Kurt Lewin three-stage model of change in more detail. So we already have the overview, we know what it is. So in our unfreezing stage, we're preparing for change. So here are a few things that you can do to make sure we are better prepped for that change when it comes. Firstly, yes, you want to communicate. You want to communicate often. You want to communicate effectively. You want to talk to everybody that will be impacted by the change. They want to hear about your vision for the change so they can get excited about it. And they want to hear about the plan for the change, right? So, how are we actually doing it? Why are we doing it? What is going on? What, when, who? All of these things needs to be communicated. The more information we have about the change, the more likely we are to accept it. So, transparency and frequency and channels. Is that email, face to face, through your managers, however you do it. In big organizations, top management's communication is very important. They are not going to be able to do one on one with all of their employees, but it has a symbolic value. The management is out there, they are talking about it and getting people rallied up and excited. Then we have to develop a sense of urgency. Or we don't have to develop a sense of urgency, I should say, but it tends to help. If people perceive things to be good, what's the reason for change, right? So we want to make sure that people understand that we need to change, we need to change now. The longer we drag something out, the less likely we are to be able to make it happen because it's complacency sets in. Status quo is a strong pull, and so that sense of urgency will help you make your case. All right, build a coalition, find friends, make new ones who can help you PR the change in a positive manner. So you're not going to, again, be able to touch every person in the organization with your communication if you're the person initiating the change. So find the opinion leaders. Who are the people that other people listen to? They can be peers, they can be others in the organization. But the point is that other people listen to them. So these are opinion leaders. Who are they? And can you get them on board with your change? And if they believe in that change, they will carry that message for you. So related to that is your network, right? Who in the organization do you know? Who can you draw upon? How can you find these opinion leaders? So we always want to make sure that we are building our network, that we have good relations throughout the organization and maybe even on the outside of the organization. We know that people want to have input. Allow people to participate. That's number 4. Ask for their input, talk to them, ask how we can do things better or different or other thoughts that they have. If they're able to participate, we will see less resistance. And we provide support. We have the heart here for the emotional support. And that basically means we listen to people, we talk to them, we support them, we show them that we're confident in them. Anything that helps them deal with the change emotionally. We have the hammer here for the instrumental support. This basically means we are making sure that they can do their job, that they feel secure in their job. Do they need training? Do they need a new desk? Anything that can help them instrumentally with the change. As I'm writing again without a pen and just on my mouse pad, and so not the most beautiful writing, but you get the point. All right, that was preparing the change, and now we're actually gonna change. So we would expect maybe some increased stress levels. Things are underway. We know it's gonna happen now. So you might have had some employees that are still thinking it's not gonna happen. We always hear a lot of messages about change, and it's not going to happen. But now it's actually underway. So here, absolutely crucial to continue to provide that support, both the emotional support, the instrumental support, be available, have an open door, communicate with people, find solutions to their problems. Create small wins. This is especially important if this is a large scale change where people are not seeing the end results very clearly, or they might not even realize they are in a change because it's at the top level of the organization. So identify things that have gone well, and celebrate them, put them in the spotlight, talk about them, make people feel motivated to continue towards that larger change. So find that inspiration in these small wins and share that positively with everyone. And then you have to eliminate obstacles. Ideally, we do that upfront before the change happens. We identify any problems and try to solve them, but that's never the case. That's going to work completely. So we are eliminating obstacles by addressing them as fast as we can. And if we don't know how to do it, let's find somebody else who can do it. Lastly, we are refreezing. So now we're at a point where the change has mostly happened. We're at the tail end of the curve and people are doing the new things, right? So we want to, like the small wins, we want to publicize the success. What are some concrete results? Did we save more money? Are we more efficient? Are we communicating better? Is the quality better? What is going on? Let the people know what we are doing well. Embracing continuous change. This is kind of what I talked about at the beginning of this little audio, is that traditionally we might have seen change as a linear process with a starting point and an ending point, but today that's not the case. So set up a dynamic feedback loop, get information, listen to it, and see how we can change continuously, just small improvements. Those incremental improvements is sometimes more efficient, more effective, and easier to deal with than radical big changes. And then for those people who are adopting the change visibly and doing it well, maybe just reward them. And it doesn't have to be money. It might be just praising them, talking about them, telling a story about them in that weekly team meeting. And so if you have something going on, you want to change in your personal life, at work, here's a slide of some easy points to think about that will make you more successful when you have changes that you want to champion. So this kind of summarizes what the chapter is about for the change portion. So we listen to naysayers, those who resist us. Maybe they have some good ideas that we can incorporate. If the change is revolutionary, a large scale radical change, that might be difficult. So maybe smaller changes or breaking it down into pieces might be useful for you. Talk to people. People want to be involved and have information. Don't just tell them, but ask them. That's what coaches do, and that's what successful leaders do. Are you credible? Will people listen to you? Have you championed changes in the past that have failed? Let's reflect on it. What happened? So make sure we are credible in the change we're trying to make, or people might not listen to us. Data is always good, qualitative or quantitative data. Whatever you can find that is making you have a more solid case for the change, be able to communicate that data, and so that people will actually believe that the change is necessary. And what are the people's ideals? What's their vision? What are their long-term goals? People will be much more likely to get on board if they see a beautiful vision and that is something that they believe in, their values. Again, change takes a lot of time. Don't be rash. Don't be quick. Allow people to take the time to process what is going on. And if people are resisting, what is going on with that? Ask them, try to get them to see your point of view while you're also trying to incorporate what they want for the change as much as you possibly can. And if you're not able to do that, maybe let them know why. All right, that's going to wrap it for organizational change.